Hi, George Sanders here, President, Goldcliff Resource Corporation. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In our last video, we talked at some length around some charts of the TSX Venture Exchange Index. We were looking at a daily or short-term chart and a 5-year chart. We were using the TSX Venture Index as a proxy for the junior exploration, junior resource market. And the focus of that video was trying to come to grips with the two contradictory pictures. One was the continuing poor sentiment in the investing space for junior resource equities, while on the other side of the coin, a pretty good looking chart pattern, particularly on the short-term chart. And we were trying to reconcile those differences and come up with some ideas as to what might be going on and what we might be looking at down the road. After posting that video, I got some chiding and kidding from colleagues and friends. They interpreted the outcome of the video as somewhat optimistic and said to me, gee, thanks a lot, you know, this market was starting to look good and here you go putting this stuff out in public, and usually when one does that, the exact opposite thing happens, and that is exactly what has taken place, and it's especially evident on the short-term chart. The breakout pattern that we were discussing and the consolidation from that breakout, we postulated that sometimes there's a second level breakout from that. What we didn't say is often there is a retest of the breakout level. Not only did that happen, but that breakout level has subsequently been penetrated to not a new low, but certainly a low for the year. So the short-term performance of the TSX Venture Index is has a lot of work to do to regain what it looked like just a few short weeks ago. So wanted to follow up with that discussion and just leave you with a couple points for consideration. Before I do that, once again, the quick disclaimer: I'm not an investment advisor, and this video is not about investment advice. It's not making any predictions. It's simply passing on some observation and many conversations. And the first thing I would say about the little bit of a short-term breakdown is that in any investing cycle, one's time frames are really important. If one is a day trader or a short-term swing trader, then what goes on in the next hour, the next day, the next week is very, very important. If one is a more classic investor, a value investor, or in the speculative side of things, waiting for a story to unfold and certain thresholds to be met, then the time frame is quite different. We did in our last video discuss two time frames, the daily chart and the 5-year chart. And while the damage has clearly been done short term, when you look on the 5-year chart, it's barely a blip. You can notice the move. However, it has not violated any uptrend lines on the longer term thing. And so some of the observations that we passed on to you in the last video remain in place. And in fact, that's a nice segue into the second point that we would like to share. One of the possible explanations a couple weeks ago was that there are some new players, some new participants starting to come into the space, and they have different attitudes than the participants or players that have traditionally been in the space for the last 20, 40, well, no longer 60 years, but certainly for the last 40 years, 20 years. In discussion earlier, late last week with a colleague, we were observing some comments about a very well-known promoter, and one of those comments was to the effect that this fellow, as talented as he is, he's playing by a 20-year-old playbook, and that playbook is dead. Conversations that I've been having suggest that that's a reality. The old ways of doing things are clearly not working. Many of the old participants have maybe not recognized that yet. So we do need to find a new playbook to integrate with some of the new participants that are emerging in this part of the resource investment space as a result of their interest in precious metals and in the recent price increase, particularly in gold. So what do those of us who are running junior companies do if everything we know and have known and all the participants we've known, if none of that stuff is working anymore? That can be a pretty daunting and frightening scenario. But the other way of looking at it is there are new opportunities. What exactly they are is being played out as we speak. We don't really know yet. But honestly, if those of us running junior companies can really keep our eyes open and look around for who are the new participants, what are the kinds of things that they're looking for, what are the things that are attracting them. If we can do that, then we're going to be first movers. And typically, first movers have an outsized response when things turn around. And so as frustrating and as sometimes depressing as this current environment can be, we're looking at it as a time of great opportunity. And honestly, it's something that gets me out of bed very early in the morning and very excited to get to work on things. So with that said, we'll see you all on the next video.